welcome once again to Arthur Brown Photography. I'm still in coronavirus lockdown mode, so I'm using the opportunity of this enforced period of staying at home to look at some of my collection of old negatives and slides and scan some of them into electronic format for long-term storage. I got my first digital camera in the year 2000. A Fuji Pix, I think, which was 1.3 megapixels. It was quite a good camera for the time. But prior to that, I'd been taking photographs since I was 11. So I probably had about 35 years worth of negatives. Now, I haven't kept them all. I have not yet found ones from the very early days. But I do have a larger collection of negatives from the early 70s right up to the year 2000, which I've been going through. I mean, so far I've not counted the number of films that I've actually scanned, but I'm up to about 700 scans just on negatives alone, and I'm probably only saving about 30% of the ones that I actually scan, because the rest were either repeats, no good, damaged, out of focus, or things I didn't really want to bother keeping. So I probably scanned about 12 to 1400 frames of negatives so far. I haven't started on the slides yet. I've probably got about, I would think, 600 to 700 slides to make a start on once I've finished the negatives. Now, how am I doing this? A few years ago, I bought an Epson scanner. It's an Epson Perfection 2580 photo scanner, and this actually has both a negative scanner and a slide scanner built into it. The negative scanner, as you'll see from this bit of film I will insert, has a little flip up lid in the top of the scanner, and it actually has a mechanism where you can feed a strip of up to 6 negatives in, and it will then preview them, and then you can tick the ones you actually want to scan at a higher resolution. And then on the scanner flatbed, again, and I'll insert another piece of film showing this, there's actually a slide holder that you put in, and again you can preview it and then scan to a higher resolution. Getting the resolution right was a bit of touch and go, but I think I'm at about, just hold on, let me double check, 2400 dpi. I found that was the best compromise between quality and file size for doing the negatives. Now, although I stored these negatives fairly carefully, a lot of them were in these plastic files, whilst others were in the just in the paper envelopes we used to get from. Remember these? You used to get them from your developer with your photographs and the negatives in. This is one called Trifka, which I think stands for Triple Print Colour Process from the Film Corporation of America. I mean, I'd actually forgotten all about them. And the ones stored in the cardboard often haven't fared as well. So some of the negatives require a fair bit of restoration. And I think I'll make a separate film about how I go about that. One thing that has become obvious to me, though, in looking at these negatives is that Kodak film has not fared very well in long-term archive. I've got a lot of Kodak film, but I've also got some photographs that I took on Agfa colour negative film and also on Fuji. And by and large, the Agfa and the Fuji film negatives have retained their colour and contrast very well and have suffered very little emulsion damage. Now, it's noticeable that the Kodak negative films, the colour has faded. They've sometimes got colour casts, and there's been a bit of delamination of the emulsion away from the negative base. Now this in some areas has been, some smaller pieces breaking of emulsion coming off, but quite often it's just noticeable as pinholes in the emulsion when you come to do the restoration. That quite surprised me because I used to use Kodak quite a lot because it was the brand to go for film in the old days. Surprisingly, most of my black and white photography was taken on Ilford black and white film, either HP4, HP5. I've got some Kodak Tri-X though, and that seems to have survived fairly well. Black and white in the main has fared better than the colour film did in long-term storage. The software I'm using for the scanner is the Epson supplied software. I came across a very strange anomaly with this. I'd actually built myself a new super duper PC for film and video editing, and it's running the latest version of Windows 10. Now, I'd used this scanner quite a lot with my iMac, and I've got a 10-year-old iMac, which at the moment is doing duty in my music recording studio. But I haven't got room there at the moment, any desk space to plug the scanner in. Now, strangely enough, when I plugged the scanner into Windows 10 and searched for the software, the message came back from Epson that this software doesn't run in a 64-bit operating system. Well, funny, because it runs perfectly in the Apple OS X 64-bit system, but obviously doesn't run in Windows 10 64-bit. So I had a bit of head scratching, but then I remembered I had an old laptop which was still running a 32-bit version of Windows 7. So I'm having to use this to do the scanning. But what I do is I just scan it straight to a memory card, and then download the stuff into my file servers, and then I can edit it on the more powerful computers then. So. But that was a very strange anomaly. I mean, the only way around it apparently was to purchase some quite expensive third-party scanning software that would run the Epson. But I was reluctant to pay £65 or $80 for something that I wasn't sure was going to work anyway, when I had a perfectly good system that worked on Windows 7. It's proved quite an interesting exercise, this actually, because it's I've found photographs that I've forgotten I'd taken, and it's brought back lots of memories. What I'll do just to finish this video is to post one or two of the images that I've actually recovered from the negatives. Here's a black and white shot I took at the Abbeydale Industrial Hamlet back in early 80s. Here's one from 1975 of Coombe Abbey near Coventry. Here's one I took in Cornwall in the late 1980s. Can't remember the village now. This one I took in Ireland in 1997. And here's one I took in 1998 in France, River Mayenne. And this last one here is the shot from a de Havilland otter into the sun. And then the next thing I'm going to do now is to go through, start going through my slides. I'm hoping that actually, although I've had some good results in the negatives, I'm hoping that the scanning results on the slides will be of even better quality, because in the old days we always used to consider that slide film had more contrast and was perhaps a little bit sharper than negative film. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you're not suffering too much in the coronavirus lockdown, and look out for my next film. Bye for now.